Hello people of the internet, we are back at my parents' house where last time we installed this solar array on this northwest facing roof, which is not ideal. If you haven't watched that video, check it out. And we installed this massive 10 kilowatt inverter, which is way too big for that size solar array, which of course is going to be connected to this EV battery behind here, but I just can't seem to undo it for now. You'll just have to wait later in the video to find out what we've got. But what you can see is it's stacked up tall this way, and it's movable on a frame and on a trolley, and that is going to go over there. So the question now is, well, how are we going to do it? Let's get on with it. Somewhere behind here, we've heard it all day, there's a woodpecker. Aren't woodpeckers just, there he is, aren't woodpeckers just crazy, hammering their head against a piece of wood? I've had this Nissan Leaf battery sat around for a few months. I thought, let's stick this into a car, upgrading an old Leaf, and then I thought, nah, we've done that already. Let's instead install it at my parents' house, giving them energy independence. In comes the last video where I installed the inverter and the solar panels. But for them to really benefit, they need a battery. A battery to fill up with cheap energy and then use that through the day. Even better, to export what they don't use for a profit. To most people in the UK, I think a battery should come first on the list before solar panels because, well, they're less impactful, don't require scaffolding and reduce the cost of labour installing the panels on roofs and running cables. Added to the fact that the UK benefits from about 4 days of sun a year? What do you think? So back to the battery. We got to find some way to get this Nissan battery through the gate and mount it on the side of my parents' property. We start by designing and then welding up a frame which the battery can mount on. This gets it upright and allows us to move it around. It will also allow us to fix it to the wall and be out of the way. Since this battery is going to live outside, we're going to need to paint the frame. Isn't paint a wonderful thing, covering up a multitude of bad welds? I'm also running out of room in the garage with all the batteries we've got in here. I really could do with finding another home for them. Now, I'm certainly not the first person to use EV batteries for home energy storage, but we tend to fall into two categories. Category 1 are people that have used an EV battery, they're content, they've got themselves maybe off-grid or energy independent, and they move on to the next thing in their life. The second category are people like myself who see how they can do it, they think I'll do that again, I'll get another battery, then they run out of space and they start helping their friends and family. Guess which camp we're in here? You see, once you've done this once, you know where to source batteries, you know how to move the batteries around, you find that things get a bit easier. Now, we are doing things a little bit different on this channel because we are trying different batteries out to show you how that can be done. We of course have not used a Nissan Leaf battery before, so we're going to use the Nissan Leaf battery and find out whether that is a good battery to use. Spoiler, it is. The cameraman was just saying that these are a lot easier to move than the Tesla batteries, and he's completely right. Despite the way we're making it look, it is easier. I didn't think these ones swiveled at the front. Believe it or not, two men can wiggle this battery on the frame. It's quite a bit lighter than the Tesla pack and quite a bit smaller. This is a 40 kilowatt hour battery, which is more than enough for my parents. Now, we've sat this on some slabs to make it nice and level, and it will also lift it off the ground. Eventually this will be boxed in, but first we need to secure this thing to the wall. Now, I'm an inherently lazy man, so the cut ends, instead of galvanising those, I'm just going to stuff them in the wall. And it should be dry in there and covered in the mixing stuff. Whatever you call it. I've forgotten its name. resin, wool resin, that's it. Now people, this is the plan for today. On my terrible drawing, there is the battery, which you can see behind, and all of this wiring has got to go in to that inverter, and you'll notice a stark. While I wait for that to set, what have we gone with? Well, we have gone with a Nissan Leaf 40 kilowatt hour, and I picked this up for £800. That isn't too bad. Now, it has somewhere around 88 to 85% health, so it's not perfect, but because it was £800, that isn't too bad. Now, it's a little bit more off the wall than I wanted, but I needed to make a frame that would go through the gate over there, and I didn't want to make it too thin and something that would wobble over. Okay, now, because it's a Nissan Leaf, we control this differently to how we control all the other batteries. With Tesla, with BYD, it's CAN controls, but with this thing, we are individually controlling all of the relays in here, which means to make our life easier, we've got a product that will do the job for us. Right, so if you remember back to the BYD video, I had 4 boxes that did all the jobs of fusing, providing the communication between the battery and the inverter, but this time round we have brought the Stark box, and this thing was nicely packaged and it comes together and it has everything in one place. Starting on the left, we have power coming in, AC power, which is then converted down for our Stark. We have an isolator and we have fuses then for this side. So that will do the job of everything. All of our major connections will come into it, which includes this cable. So now I've got to work out where I'm going to put all this, and I'm thinking that we might just stick this above here, somewhere around here. We'll run the cables all in the underside. This cable actually comes from a Renault Zoe. The end that we care about has exactly the same connector as the Nissan Leaf. We are not going to need the one end, so we can cut that off and terminate it inside our box. Oh.
What are you up to? What's happened?
I've gone and dropped them, haven't I, and spread them all over the place. Some of them are between the tarmac and the brick. None of them make sense as to where they are anymore. Look, in life, problems are going to happen. It's the way that you deal with them that's important. Okay, so my mum actually tidied these up later on that day. I didn't ask her to, I just found her tidying these up. Now, of course, I would never talk them up with this, and what you saw there was just for demonstration purposes only. So, all we need between our battery end and our inverter end over there is power, DC, and a Cat5 cable. So, we're using 10mm squared solar cable, positive and negative. We're going to run these down the 25mm conduit, and then we can hook these things up. There you go. It's really important to have good connections here, because this inverter is going to be running close to 30 amps for hours at a time to charge and discharge this battery. Because this is all fitted on an outside wall, mainly for fire safety, we're going to need to make sure that all of our connections are nice and watertight. All of our enclosures are watertight, and we're using watertight glands. Ignore my colours here, because I'm pretty sure that that RJ45 was turned backwards, so I've ended up with blue. Follow the wiring diagram for your inverter, but we can start putting all this stuff back, which was in our way before. That'll click in, we'll get the Wi-Fi adapter, and then the cover can go on this. The last item to tick off from our inverter is the 6mm squared earth cable that goes to the battery. Skip this and you'll be getting a shock, trust me. Okay people, we are making progress, and all that is left now is all of these connections, which I've started soldering. We just need to deal with the heat shrink and then stick one over. This is a YY cable with 7 cores. I have put all of the ground wires or the negative wires into this earth one that's here, and there's a whole bunch of spare wires that we just don't need for this project. But this cable has to go into the start box, which we can then hopefully get this thing to be charging up from cheap electricity. Charging from cheap electricity, you say? All of my battery projects get paired with Octopus Energy. Why? Because they have smart tariffs that allow you to buy electricity cheap, which can then be stored in the battery and potentially sold back when the grid needs it and when you can make a profit. Octopus have a range of tariffs, for example, those that work with EVs and heat pumps. If you sign up to them via my link, we would split £100. Please note, you don't actually have to be on one of their smart tariffs. You can be on their BOGO standard rate and still benefit from their excellent customer service. People, this start box has made my life so much easier. One box that handles it all, and it's of course waterproof. I will be using this again in the future. But let's get finishing this one, hey? This Nissan Leaf battery pack has turned out to be very easy for home energy storage. They are much lighter and more compact than most EV batteries. They only require 2 connections, which are on the same side, and the software is incredibly developed for them. Yes, individually controlling each of the contactors creates a little bit more wiring and forces you to use the start. A perfect product for this, as it can handle all the contactor controls individually, well, built in. So even with the one drawback of this pack, it isn't really a drawback. You see, the Nissan Leaf was the first battery to be properly supported by the battery emulator because, well, it's the battery that Dala owns. And it was easy for him to initially set it up because Nissan actually produced a document for Second Life energy storage. This means that the battery is happy to function in this way, and the pack also balances itself as well. The drawback is, as far as I'm concerned, that this is an NMC pack, so we're going to have less cycle life and slightly more volatility. I'll probably run this down to about 60% state of health, then film a video taking this battery to a recycler and replace it with the largest battery I can possibly put at my parents' wall. If you're wondering what we're doing, we're sealing up the AC compressor port because we won't be using this and we need to keep the touchy bits out of the way. We need to connect power up to this convenient socket that I've installed here a few weeks back that spurred off the back. And we've got some HO7 cable which will run into that box behind here, and eventually this is all going to get covered, and I would say that we'll do the customary dangling off things. This is pretty solid on here, it doesn't want to go anywhere, so I'm happy with that. Just needs a good clean and then it's going to get covered with something later in the video, but we're getting there. With our AC power connected, we will then be ready to put this thing to the test and see if this actually works. Remember, we are putting in a battery that is 4 times bigger than the off-the-shelf battery, while also costing less despite purchasing extra parts. This is crazy. Right, so lights are on, but we have 2 red lights and none of the other lights are going, so I'm going to log into its IP address, 192.168.4.1. I've connected to the Wi-Fi, and on here we have a state of charge of 66%, but it says there's a fault. Contactor is controlled by emulator fault. So let's have a look first at what settings I put. So that is not LFP, that should be NMC. And we put that on CAN 1. And the inverter should be on CAN 2. We'll get rid of not connected, we're not using that. Control contactors via GPIO, that should be correct. Okay, so let's change that one setting and then see what that does for us. We'll reboot that. Okay, so I'm not sure what this error is, but let's click close contactors and see what happens. I might have to get rid of too much. I'm not sure what that one is. More battery information. Okay people, I've got it working. It was simple. In the software I had to change the normally open and normally closed, and then bam, free charge went, and then we had both contactors closed, and now you can see here the Christmas tree of lights. So all I've got to do now is turn that DC isolator and see if the inverter over there recognises it. This is exciting. This start was originally designed for the Nissan Leaf setup, and that's why it is so well set up to handle the relays when you're controlling relays directly. So let's turn this on and see if I get blown backwards. Seems okay. Let's see what the inverter's doing. It is currently now discharging into the house at the rate of 650 watts. Yes, we have done it. So you can see that here on the phone, we're discharging and the home is using it. Weirdly, it says no solar. Not quite sure why we've got no solar on here, but we should be able to change the mode to something else. From 5 o'clock, 1 minute's time, this here should suddenly jump up. Okay people, it's been a long day, but the battery is in, it's in its final place. We need to cover it and make it look nice. The Stark box has made life so much easier and everything is looking pretty neat. The only thing that isn't looking neat is the absolute mess of tools that I've left lying around. So I'll charge it up to 100% and see how it goes. After doing all my initial running safety tests, I have a go at some carpentry. Oh, you kid. Now, things don't always go smoothly, but at least this battery has been easy to set up. I hear what you're crying out. Get a magnet, get a magnet. You could pick them up easily with a magnet. But by the time I've got the magnet, I will have got them all. Well, there's a couple more in there, but that's fine. Now, this isn't a battery box building video, but we had to keep all of those connections on the top watertight. Hey people, so it's been a few weeks. We have a cover now, and yes, we have gone for timber, and I know what some of you are thinking. Timber is flammable, but that's how much I trust these EV batteries to not cause an issue, and this is in a place where I don't believe it'll be an issue. But I had considered not putting timber here and putting sort of unistrut and then corrugated sheeting around it, but let's face it, that's going to look ugly. Now, it is personal opinion. You guys might have thought that looks better, or you might have thought that the fire safety aspect is worth that, but I'm sure you will let me know in the comments what you think about that. I needed to make this blend in for my parents, and well, really, they sit out here, so it needs to be as nice for them as possible. Now, had you not known or seen this, you wouldn't have a clue there's a battery behind there. We've left some space, we've left air gaps at the bottom, air gaps at the top. In fact, I've still got a strip to run along here, but everything is working perfectly. That inverter, that battery combo, absolutely perfect. But now we need to find out, how do we manage the battery that's behind here, the inverter that's over there, the solar panels, to make the best return? Because to me, this is what solar panels, this is what batteries about, making a return. Now, you could be off-grid, but for me, on-grid is perfect because it gives us access to the ability to export. So, in the next video, we're going to find out how to manage this whole thing and make the best use of it. And that brings me on to another character that you'll meet in upcoming videos, because he might be the solution to my problem to manage this as simply as possible. Part 1 was the panels, part 2 is this giant battery we put here, and part 3 is how are we going to make the most returns from this. And I'm excited for that, and I hope you are too. So I will see you in the next one. Battery Man out.